Do you know where you're keeping your money right now? Because that place might be destroying your prosperity without you even knowing it. There are 7 sacred places that Jewish mystics have known about for centuries. Places where money doesn't just sit, it multiplies like seeds in fertile soil, following ancient Kabbalistic principles that have sustained Jewish families through millennia of exile and triumph. Robert discovered this truth too late. He worked day and night, saved every penny, but his money vanished like water through his fingers, until he met Mrs. Schwartz, the most prosperous woman in the entire neighborhood, who revealed to him the 7 sacred places where money grows on its own. Today, you're going to discover these sacred places, and by the end of this story, your financial life will never be the same again. The sun had barely risen when Robert opened his eyes with that familiar knot in his stomach. It was the last day of the month, and the bills waited for him like hungry wolves at the door. He was a carpenter with skilled hands. He made furniture that lasted generations. He repaired what others said couldn't be fixed. He worked from 6 in the morning until the light no longer allowed him to see the wood. But money, that money he worked so hard to earn, slipped away from his life without a trace. That morning, sitting in his small kitchen, Robert counted the crumpled bills he kept in an empty coffee can. $300. That's all that remained from 2 weeks of exhausting work. Rent cost $500, food another $200, and his daughter needed new uniforms for school. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of defeat. 45 years of non-stop work, and he had nothing. No house of his own, no savings, no future. The coffee can sat there on the table, a monument to his struggle. It wasn't just rusty and stained. It was a symbol of how he'd been treating his entire financial life. Carelessly, desperately, without intention or reverence. He'd never thought about it before. But in that moment, staring at those wrinkled bills stuffed into that dirty container, something began to crack open inside him. Was this really all his life amounted to? Was this the legacy he'd leave his daughter? A soft knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Mrs. Schwartz, his neighbor from the 3rd floor. This woman was a living enigma. She had arrived at the building 15 years earlier, widowed and penniless, selling bagels on the corner. Today, she owned 3 commercial properties and lived with a peace that Robert envied more than her money. She never seemed anxious, never rushed, never desperate. It was as if she had discovered some secret law of the universe that allowed abundance to flow to her without effort, without struggle, without the soul-crushing fear that Robert carried every single day. The ancient rabbis teach us that prosperity begins not with how much we earn, but with how we honor what we have. They understood something profound. Money is not just paper and metal. It's energy. It's consciousness. It's a living force that responds to how we treat it, where we place it, and what intentions we hold around it. This wisdom has been passed down through generations, often in whispers, often within families, but rarely shared with the world outside. Before we continue with Robert's transformation, I want to share something with you. If you're ready to go deeper into these ancient Jewish prosperity principles, I've prepared a comprehensive guide called 15 Jewish Wealth Codes, Enrichment Strategies of the Jewish People. This ebook reveals the complete system that families like Mrs. Schwartz's have used for generations to build lasting wealth. You'll find the link in the first pinned comment below. Download it now while you're thinking about it, because what you're about to learn in this story is just the beginning. Good morning, Robert. I brought fresh coffee and sweet bread. May I come in? Robert tried to smile and quickly cleaned the table. Mrs. Schwartz entered with her calm stride, that walk of someone who's never in a hurry because she knows everything will arrive in its time. She placed the basket on the table, but her wise eyes immediately landed on the coffee can where Robert kept his bills. The can was rusty, dirty, with coffee residue stuck inside. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at it. Then she looked at Robert, then back at the can. In that silence, Robert felt exposed, as if she could see not just the can, but every financial mistake he'd ever made, every moment of desperation, every time he'd told himself that he was cursed, that prosperity was for other people, that he'd always be struggling. Robert, may I ask you a direct question? Robert nodded, feeling that this woman could see through the walls of his soul. Why do you store your money as if it were trash? Robert looked at the can, confused. It's not trash, Mrs. Schwartz. It's my money, what's left of it. The elderly woman sat down and poured the coffee with slow, deliberate movements. Each gesture was intentional, graceful, almost ceremonial. Even the way she poured coffee was different from how Robert did anything. He rushed. She moved with purpose. Exactly. There's your problem, Robert. You treat your money like leftovers, like something that only serves to be spent quickly. How do you expect money to respect you if you don't respect it first? Robert felt something stir inside his chest. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. No one had ever suggested that money had feelings, that it could respond to how it was treated, that the relationship between a person and their wealth was a two-way street. In Kabbalah, Mrs. Schwartz continued, we learn about a concept called shafa, the divine flow of abundance. It comes from the Hebrew root meaning overflow. The universe is not stingy, Robert. The divine wants to bless you, but shafa cannot flow into a vessel that's dirty, broken, or disrespected. You've been using a rusty can as your vessel. What kind of abundance do you think that attracts? Robert had never heard anything like this. He'd grown up believing that hard work alone would save him, that if he just worked harder, longer, more intensely, eventually prosperity would come. But here was this woman telling him that his effort wasn't the problem. His consciousness was. His relationship with money itself was blocking the very thing he was working so desperately to achieve. Robert, there exists ancient knowledge that my grandmother taught me. Knowledge about the 7 sacred places where money doesn't just get stored, but multiplies. Places where the energy of abundance works in your favor, even while you sleep. Robert leaned forward. Sacred places? Like a bank? Mrs. Schwartz smiled tenderly. No, son. Banks store money, but these places give it life. I started with $50 15 years ago. Today I have more than I need. And it all began when I learned where to place my money so it would grow. She reached across the table and took both of Robert's hands in hers. What I'm about to teach you comes from centuries of Jewish wisdom. Our people have survived exile, persecution, economic upheaval, and disaster after disaster, and yet we've thrived. How? Not because we're smarter or luckier, because we understand principles that most people never learn. We understand that wealth is spiritual before it's material. We understand that the way you treat a single dollar determines whether you'll ever have 1,000. The first sacred place, Mrs. Schwartz began, is the wooden box perfumed with intention. She pulled from her purse a small cedar box, simple but beautiful, with a sweet aroma that filled the kitchen. Money is living energy, Robert, and living energy needs a dignified home. Wood is a noble material that comes from trees, which are symbols of growth and eternal life. When you store your money in wood, especially aromatic wood like cedar or pine, you're telling it. Here you grow, here you expand, here you have roots. Mrs. Schwartz opened the box. Inside were perfectly pressed bills, folded carefully, and 3 elements: a cinnamon stick, a dried bay leaf, and a small clear crystal. In Jewish tradition, we understand that everything in our home carries intention. The cinnamon attracts abundance. It's been used in the temple rituals for thousands of years. When the priests would prepare the sacred incense, the kataret, cinnamon was one of the 11 ingredients. It represents sweetness, attraction, and the drawing near of blessings. The bay leaf represents victory and success. In ancient times, champions were crowned with laurel wreaths. The crystal amplifies intention. This isn't superstition, Robert. This is honoring what sustains you. She lifted the cinnamon stick to her nose and breathed in. Smell this. What do you feel? Robert inhaled the warm, sweet scent. It smelled good, warm, like home somehow. Exactly, Mrs. Schwartz said. That's what money should feel like. It should feel like warmth, like home, like safety, not like fear, not like desperation. When you place your money in a wooden box with these sacred elements, You're creating an environment where prosperity feels welcome. Robert stared at the box as if it were treasure. And it works just like that? It works because it changes your relationship with money. When you honor your money, money honors you. My first box was made from a shoebox lined with red fabric. It doesn't need to be expensive, Robert. It needs to be special. It needs to say, "You matter to me." Every time I open this box, I'm not just counting bills. I'm acknowledging that I'm worthy of abundance. I am declaring that I'm a steward of blessings, not a victim of circumstance. She closed the box gently, as if tucking in a child. The Talmud teaches us in Bava Metzia that we should divide our wealth into thirds, 1/3 in land, 1/3 in business, and 1/3 readily available. But before you can divide anything, you must first honor it. You must give it a home worthy of what it represents. This box is not just storage, Robert. It's a declaration of your worthiness. The second sacred place, the old woman continued, is inside the Book of Wisdom. She reached into her bag and pulled out an old Torah commentary, its pages worn from use, margins filled with handwritten notes from decades of study. She opened it to the Book of Proverbs, and there, between the pages, was a $100 bill folded carefully. Sacred books, or any book that teaches you something valuable, are portals of knowledge. The Torah teaches us that wisdom is more precious than rubies, and all the things you desire cannot compare with her. When you store money between the pages of a book of wisdom, that money absorbs knowledge. It becomes intelligent money, money that knows how to grow and multiply. This is not metaphor, Robert. In Kabbalistic thought, everything absorbs the energy of what surrounds it. Money placed in trash absorbs the consciousness of trash. Money placed in sacred text absorbs the consciousness of wisdom. I always keep a bill in my Torah commentary, in Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And believe me, Robert, since I've done this, I've never lacked anything. This practice connects your material wealth with spiritual wisdom. They're not separate. Our sages taught that Torah study and livelihood go hand in hand when properly balanced. In fact, in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers, we learn, if there is no flour, there is no Torah. If there is no Torah, there is no flour. Material sustenance and spiritual wisdom are intertwined, interdependent. One supports the other. She ran her finger along the page where the bill rested. Do you know what Psalm 23 really means? I shall not want, lo exar. It doesn't mean I won't desire anything. It means I won't lack. I won't be in a state of deficiency. When you place money in this context, you're surrounding it with the energy of sufficiency, of divine provision, of trust that you will be taken care of. Robert touched the book with reverence. My mother left me her prayer book when she died. It's stored away in a drawer. Take it out, Mrs. Schwartz said firmly. Place your first bill there, and every time you see it, remember that true wealth comes from the divine. But the divine works through our wise actions. Your mother's prayers are in that book. Her devotion is in those pages. What better place for your wealth to rest than in the presence of her blessings? The third sacred place is before the clean mirror. Mrs. Schwartz pointed toward the small mirror hanging on Robert's kitchen wall. It was dusty with dried water spots, spotted with age and neglect. The mirror doubles the image, Robert. It's a law of physics, and also a spiritual law. When you place your money box or your wallet in front of a perfectly clean mirror, the mirror reflects abundance and energetically doubles it. But be careful, she warned with a raised finger. The mirror must be spotless. A dirty mirror reflects confusion. A broken mirror reflects brokenness. A spotted mirror reflects incompleteness. Clean your mirror until it shines like crystal water and place your money where it can see its own reflection. There's an additional secret. Every morning, look at yourself in that mirror and say out loud, I deserve abundance. I attract prosperity. My money multiplies. The mirror will return that affirmation multiplied. In Kabbalistic teaching, the mirror represents the concept of reflection and revelation. What we project outward returns to us. The Zohar speaks of ispaklaria me'ira, and ispaklaria she'ena me'ira. The luminous mirror and the non-luminous mirror. The luminous mirror is clarity, truth, direct revelation. The non-luminous mirror is confusion, distortion, blocked perception. Make sure what you're reflecting is clarity and intention, not chaos and neglect. When you look into a clean mirror with your money reflected beside you, you're creating a spiritual alignment that says, I and my prosperity are one. We are clear. We are multiplied. She stood and walked to Robert's mirror, pulling a cloth from her purse. May I? Robert nodded, and she began to clean the mirror in slow, circular motions. As the dust and spots disappeared, the reflection became sharper, clearer. See, she said. Now you can truly see yourself. Now your wealth can truly see itself. Reflection is powerful, Robert. It's why we examine ourselves before Yom Kippur. It's why we look into water to see our face. Reflection brings consciousness, and consciousness brings change. The fourth sacred place is in the red envelope sealed with intention. The old woman pulled out a bright red paper envelope sealed with golden wax. In ancient traditions that Jewish merchants learned through the Silk Road, through centuries of trade with the East, red is the color of good fortune and prosperity. It represents vitality, life force, the blood that runs through our veins. A red envelope sealed with a bill inside and a written intention is a magnet for abundance. Look, she wrote on the envelope in clear letters. This money multiplies by 7. This money returns to me with blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The number 7 is sacred in Judaism. 7 days of creation, 7 years of the sabbatical cycle, 7 branches of the menorah. 7 represents completion, wholeness, divine perfection. When you declare that your money multiplies by 7, you're invoking the power of completion. You're saying, Divine Creator, as you completed the world in 7 days, complete my prosperity. Store this envelope in a high place, never on the floor, because money must be elevated. Elevation is a spiritual principle. We elevate the Torah when we read it. We elevate the wine when we make kiddush. We elevate what we honor. I place mine on the highest shelf of my closet, and every month when I check the envelope, there are always more opportunities, more income, more blessings. Not because the envelope is magic, Robert, but because the act of writing that intention, sealing it, elevating it, and trusting it creates an opening in my consciousness. And when consciousness opens, prosperity flows. The Jewish principle of gratitude, hakarat hatov, teaches us that acknowledging what we have opens the gates for more. Hakarat hatov literally means recognizing the good. The threefold thank you isn't just politeness. It's a spiritual declaration that we recognize the source of our blessings. 1 thank you for what was. 1 thank you for what is. 1 thank you for what will be. Past, present, future, all held in gratitude. The 5th sacred place is the clay or ceramic savings container. Mrs. Schwartz explained, pulling a small earthenware piece from her bag. Our grandparents knew this. Clay comes from the earth, and earth is the mother of abundance. Everything that grows comes from the earth. In Genesis, we learn that Adam was formed from the dust of the earth, Adama. We are earth beings. We are connected to the soil, to the ground, to the foundation of all growth. An artisan clay bank, handmade, has the vibration of honest work and connection with nature. Don't use plastic banks, Robert. Plastic is artificial, lifeless, petroleum-based, created from what was buried and dead. Use clay, ceramic, earthenware, materials that come from living earth, that have been shaped by human hands, fired in kilns, transformed by the elements. And don't break it when it fills up. Make a cork in the base to remove the money with respect. A bank that breaks symbolizes destruction, not abundance. Breaking is violence. Opening is wisdom. I have a clay bank shaped like a little pig in my living room. I put every coin I find on the street in it, every extra bill that arrives, and I talk to it. Grow, grow, multiply. And believe me, it's always full. This connects to the Jewish principle of found money, matana min hashemayim, a gift from heaven. When we honor even the smallest coins, We demonstrate that we're worthy stewards of greater wealth. The Talmud tells a story of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, who was so poor that his wife would light the oven on Friday with nothing inside, just to create smoke so the neighbors wouldn't know they had no food for Shabbat. One day, a neighbor knocked, concerned, and when she opened the oven, it was filled with fresh bread. A miracle. Why? Because Rabbi Chanina honored what little he had. He trusted. He treated even his poverty with dignity, and heaven responded. The sixth sacred place is in the drawer with clean, perfumed clothing. Robert frowned. With clothing? Not just any clothing, Robert. With clothing you love that's clean, folded carefully, perfumed with lavender or roses. Clean clothing vibrates with order and dignity. When you store a bill folded carefully among your best shirts, you're telling money, you are important. You deserve to be among the best I have. Never mix money with dirty clothes, with torn socks, with things you no longer use. That's telling money it's trash. But among the clothing that makes you feel good, there, money rests and grows. This is about creating a home within your home where prosperity feels welcome, honored, and safe. In Jewish thought, we have a concept called hidur mitzvah, beautifying the commandment. We don't just fulfill our obligations, we make them beautiful. We use a beautiful menorah, a beautiful Kiddush cup, beautiful Shabbat candlesticks. Why? Because beauty honors the sacred. Your money is sacred, Robert. It represents your life force, your hours, your energy. Honor it by placing it among beautiful things. Now, before I reveal the seventh and most powerful sacred place, I need to pause for a moment. What you're learning right now about these 7 places is profound, but it's only scratching the surface of Jewish wealth wisdom. For thousands of years, Jewish families have preserved 15 core wealth codes, principles that have allowed them to thrive in every economy, in every country, through every challenge. These aren't just storage techniques, they're complete strategies covering everything from the spiritual laws of giving and receiving, to the practical methods of asset protection and multiplication that the Talmud teaches. The Talmud's advice to divide your wealth into thirds, land, merchandise, and liquid reserves, is just one code. The principle of ma'aser, giving 10%, is another. The concept of shafa, divine flow, is yet another. The practice of Shabbat economics, ceasing from work to demonstrate trust in divine provision, is profound beyond measure. And there are 11 more codes that work in concert with these to create a complete system of prosperity consciousness. I've compiled all 15 of these codes in the ebook 15 Jewish Wealth Codes, Enrichment Strategies of the Jewish People, and I cannot emphasize enough how transformative this knowledge is. This is not theory pulled from thin air. These are principles encoded in the Torah, elaborated in the Talmud, practiced by Jewish communities from Babylon to Spain to Poland to New York for 4,000 years. These codes have been tested through expulsions, through poverty, through the loss of everything material, and they've held true. They work because they're built on spiritual laws as reliable as gravity. Right now, while Robert's story is unfolding, and while your mind is open to these ancient truths, go to the first pinned comment and download your copy. Because what comes next, the 7th sacred place, will make complete sense only when you understand the full framework. The link is waiting for you. Get it now. And the 7th sacred place, Robert, is the most powerful of all. Mrs. Geyer, Schwartz stood and walked to the window where sunlight streamed in. The 7th place is in the open hand that gives. Robert looked at her without understanding. The most sacred place for money is in movement. It's when you give it with love, with generosity, without expecting anything in return. A bill given to someone who's hungry, a coin gifted to a child, a donation to the synagogue, a favor paid to a friend in need. Money that flows returns multiplied. Money that stagnates rots. I learned this the hard way. When I began to prosper, I became stingy, tight-fisted, and money stopped coming. It was like turning off a faucet. The moment I clenched my fist, the flow ceased. Until my grandmother told me, "The river that doesn't flow becomes a swamp." Give, daughter, and it shall be given to you. From that day, I give 10% of everything I earn, what we call ma'aser, not because I have to, but because I know that giving opens a portal of abundance that no bank account can equal. This is the Jewish secret that has sustained us for 4,000 years. Tzedakah, righteous giving, isn't charity, it's justice. The root of tzedakah is tzedek, which means righteousness, justice, what is right. When we give, we're not being nice. We're not being generous in the soft sense. We're participating in cosmic justice. We're balancing the scales. We're acknowledging that everything we have is not truly ours. It's been loaned to us by the divine, and we're custodians, not owners. The Talmud says it plainly, tzedakah saves from death. Not because of magic, but because when we give, we acknowledge that we are channels, not containers. We are meant to flow, not to dam. Think of your body, Robert. Blood must flow. If blood stops moving, you die. If blood pools in one place, that's a clot, a blockage, a stroke. Money is the blood of society. It must circulate. When you hoard, you create a spiritual clot. When you give, you keep the circulation healthy. Mrs. Schwartz's voice grew softer, more intimate. There's a deeper secret here, Robert. In Kabbalah, we learn that the universe operates on a principle of divine abundance, shafa, constantly pouring down from the infinite source. But that flow can only reach us if we keep ourselves open. A closed hand cannot receive. When you give, you open your hand, and an open hand is positioned to receive. It's not transactional. I give so I can get. It's positional. I give so I remain in the posture of openness, and openness is where blessing lives. Maimonides, one of our greatest sages, taught that there are 8 levels of giving, and the highest level is to help someone become self-sufficient. Not just to give them a fish, but to teach them to fish, to give them the tools to prosper on their own. That's the ultimate tzedakah, because it doesn't create dependency, it creates dignity. But even the smallest act of giving, a single coin to a person in need, carries profound spiritual weight. Because it's not about the amount, it's about the intention. It's about recognizing that you have enough to share, and that recognition itself opens the channels of abundance. Robert felt something break inside his chest. Silent tears ran down his weathered face. Mrs. Schwartz, I've lived 45 years like a beggar, hoarding crumbs. I've treated my money like an enemy, like something that's going to leave anyway. I've been so afraid of not having enough that I've closed myself off from receiving more. I've been living in scarcity consciousness, and scarcity is all I've attracted. The old woman took his hands tenderly. Today, Robert, you learn. Today your true prosperity begins. But understand this. Transformation isn't just intellectual. You can't just know these principles. You must practice them. You must embody them. Knowledge without action is like a tree without fruit. It looks alive, but it produces nothing. Go and get a wooden box, buy a red envelope, clean your mirror until it shines. Take out your mother's prayer book and place your first bill there with love. Get a clay bank and speak to it as if it were alive, because in the energetic realm, it is alive. Everything carries vibration. Fold a bill and place it among your best clothing, the clothing that makes you feel worthy, capable, strong. And when you have even an extra coin, give with an open heart, because the universe doesn't bless closed hands. Do these things not as superstition, not as magic tricks, but as spiritual practice. Each action is a prayer. Each placement is a meditation. You're training yourself to see money differently, to treat it differently, to relate to it differently. And when your relationship with money changes, money's relationship with you changes. This is the law. This is the code. This is the ancient Jewish wisdom that has survived every persecution, every exile, every attempt to destroy us. They could take our homes, our possessions, our land, but they couldn't take what we knew. And what we knew kept us alive, kept us thriving, kept us becoming prosperous again and again, no matter where we landed. 3 months later, Robert knocked on Mrs. Schwartz's door. He carried in his hands a wooden box he had made himself, carved with designs of trees and birds, sanded smooth, oiled until it glowed. "Mrs. Schwartz, I've come to thank you and bring you a gift." The old woman opened the door with her eternal smile, but her eyes widened when she saw the box. "Robert, you made this?" "With my own hands," he said. "The best work I've ever done." She invited him in, and he placed the box on the table with the same reverence she had shown her own. "I did what you told me, everything. The cedar box with cinnamon and bay leaf, the bill in my mother's prayer book. My money in front of the mirror I cleaned until my face looked perfect. The red envelope on the high shelf with my intention written in my own hand. The clay bank that I talk to every time I pass it. A bill stored among my best shirt, the one I wear to synagogue. And the hardest thing, Mrs. Schwartz, I gave. I paid for lunch for a construction worker who had nothing to eat. I gave $50 to the synagogue, even though I needed it myself. I bought my daughter her new uniform without complaining, without making her feel guilty, without the resentment I used to carry." His eyes shone with tears, but they were different tears than before. These were tears of relief, of release, of gratitude. And I don't know how to explain it, but money began to arrive. A client asked me to make an entire living room set, my biggest commission ever. Another recommended me for an office renovation. A neighbor hired me to build custom cabinets. This week I paid rent early. I bought food without counting every penny. I opened a savings account at the bank, a real savings account, Mrs. Schwartz, something I've never had in my life, and still had money left over. But most importantly, his voice broke, is that I'm no longer afraid. Money is no longer my enemy. It's my friend, my partner, and I treat it with the respect it deserves. I wake up in the morning and instead of that knot in my stomach, I feel peace. I feel like I'm finally in alignment with something larger than myself. I'm no longer fighting against the current. I'm flowing with it. Mrs. Schwartz hugged Robert like a mother hugs her son. "You learned, Robert. You didn't just learn with your mind. You learned with your hands, with your actions, with your heart. And now your mission is to teach, because prosperity that's hoarded rots. Prosperity that's shared multiplies to infinity. Tell others what you've learned. Show them your box. Explain the principles. Don't keep this wisdom to yourself, because wisdom is like a candle. When you use it to light another candle, your flame doesn't diminish. It grows brighter. And you who are listening to me now, where are you keeping your money? In a rusty can like Robert? In a torn, dirty wallet stuffed in your back pocket? Mixed with trash in a forgotten drawer? Crumpled in a plastic bag? Scattered across your car, your counters, your life with no intention, no reverence, no consciousness? Or are you ready to honor your money in the 7 sacred places and watch your life change forever? Do this today, not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Get a wooden box, even if it's small, even if you make it yourself from a simple container lined with fabric. Fold your bills with care and love. Smooth out the wrinkles. Treat each one as if it matters, because it does. Place them in front of a clean mirror, and truly clean that mirror. Don't just wipe it quickly. Make it shine. Store a bill in a book of wisdom, whether it's a sacred text, a book that changed your life, or a volume that teaches you something profound. Prepare your red envelope with your written intention. Write clearly, write boldly, write what you truly desire. Buy a clay bank and yes, talk to it, bless it, treat it as a living vessel for growth. Perfume your clothes and store a blessing there, a bill that says, I am worthy of abundance. And above all, give with an open heart, because the hand that gives is never empty. But listen carefully, because this is important. What I've shared with you today is transformative, but it's incomplete without the full framework. The 7 sacred places are just one of the 15 wealth codes that Jewish families have guarded and practiced for millennia. The complete system includes the Talmudic law of diversification, dividing wealth into land, business, and reserves to protect against any single catastrophe. It includes the Sabbath principle, the revolutionary idea that ceasing from labor one day a week doesn't decrease prosperity, but increases it, because it demonstrates trust in divine provision, rather than anxious striving. It includes the Ma'aser formula, the 10% tithe that keeps the channels of shafa flowing. It includes the principle of Hishtadlut, the balance between human effort and divine blessing, the understanding that we must act, but we cannot control outcomes. It includes the laws of honest business, not cheating, not exploiting, not taking advantage, because wealth built on injustice cannot stand. It includes the concept of B'Tselem Elohim, that every person is created in the divine image, and therefore economic relationships must honor human dignity. It includes inheritance planning, the Jewish emphasis on leaving a legacy, on generational thinking, on planting trees under whose shade you may never sit. It includes the prohibition against charging interest to fellow community members, the recognition that poverty shouldn't be an opportunity for exploitation. It includes the Jubilee principle, the idea that systems should periodically reset to prevent permanent inequality. And there are 6 more codes that work together to create a complete blueprint for prosperity that honors both material success and spiritual integrity. You need all 15 codes working in harmony, not just 7 places in isolation. That's exactly why I created 15 Jewish wealth codes, enrichment strategies of the Jewish people, to give you the complete blueprint that has sustained Jewish families through exile, persecution, economic collapse, and triumph for 4,000 years. This isn't theory. This isn't wishful thinking. This isn't New Age fantasy. These are battle-tested principles encoded in the oldest continuously studied texts in human history, practiced by communities that have survived everything history could throw at them, and emerged not just intact, but prosperous. Right now, go to the first pinned comment below and download your copy. Study it alongside what you learned today. Read it slowly, thoughtfully, with the same reverence you'd bring to any sacred text. Implement all 15 codes in your life, not just the 7 places. Practice them daily. Make them part of your routine, your consciousness, your way of being in the world. Because when you do, you're not just changing where you keep money. You're changing who you are in relationship to abundance itself. You're shifting from scarcity consciousness to prosperity consciousness. You're moving from fear to trust. You're opening yourself to become a channel for blessing rather than a dam that blocks it. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment right now saying, "I honor my money." Type it out. Let that declaration activate something in your spirit. Let it be your commitment to a new relationship with prosperity. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications for more stories that transform lives, because this is just the beginning. There are more ancient secrets to share, more wisdom to unlock, more practices that can revolutionize not just your finances, but your entire life. And share this video with someone who needs to learn these sacred secrets. Someone who's been struggling like Robert, treating their money like an enemy instead of a partner, living in fear instead of trust, hoarding instead of flowing. May the divine bless your path toward true abundance. May your home become a sanctuary of prosperity, a place where shafa flows freely, where blessings multiply, where peace dwells. May your hands always be open to give and to receive, because the open hand is the prosperous hand. And may you remember that wealth isn't just about money. It's about peace, purpose, dignity, freedom, generosity, and the power to bless others as you've been blessed. It's about becoming the person you were created to be, living the life you were meant to live, fulfilling the mission you were sent here to accomplish. The 7 sacred places are waiting for you. Your transformation begins today. Go now. Clean that mirror until it reflects truth. Honor that money as if it were sacred, because it is. Download those wealth codes and study them as if your future depends on it, because it does. Implement these practices with the same devotion you'd bring to prayer, because they are prayer in action. And watch everything change. Watch opportunities appear. Watch resources flow. Watch fear dissolve and trust emerge. Watch yourself become the kind of person prosperity seeks out, rather than the kind of person it avoids. Your new life of abundance is already here. It's not somewhere in the distant future. It's not dependent on circumstances outside your control. It's here, now, waiting for you to step into it. You just need to open your hands to receive it. You just need to open your heart to believe it. You just need to take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and your journey toward true prosperity begins right now, in this moment, with this decision. The 7 sacred places, the 15 wealth codes, the ancient Jewish wisdom that has outlasted empires. It's all here. It's all available. It's all yours. Take it, use it, live it, and become the prosperous, generous, abundant person you were always meant to be.